Hello, good evening, and welcome back. So at this point, you've probably heard about the grime artist Wiley being dropped by management over his anti-Semitic posts. And he had a falling out with his manager, who was Jewish, and then followed up on Twitter with things of saying that there's Jewish law, that if you say bad things about Jews and you're hired by two Jewish guys, then chances are you're going to be fired, and these sorts of things. And most notably, comparing them to the Ku Klux Klan and saying, don't really care about what Hitler did to the Jews, I care more about black lives. Well, in that case, you might want to check into what Hitler thought of black people. And yes, by all means, he did, of course, work with some nationals further south of Europe, but that was predominantly into the Middle East, with the Muslims, actually, and Indians. And just a small minority, just like the amount of British people who moved over to work with the Nazis. But it wasn't a fully fledged thing. And the idea of purifying the society was to get rid of the invalids and work its way towards people who were not German or Germanic. His view of what Aryan was, which is still disputed as to what Aryan actually means. But nonetheless, that's his opinion. He posted it on Twitter. It was hateful by all means. There was nothing threatening about it. He wasn't saying that he was going to do anything to attack Jewish people. He wasn't encouraging or inciting violence for anybody within the Jewish community or anybody who was Semitic. And yet, because it's hateful, he's been dropped by his management. His Twitter account got suspended. And there's been a police investigation into it as well. And the first part of not wanting to work with somebody, then fair enough. Except in British law, you cannot do that. Because if it's based off of their religion or beliefs, then you can't fire them or not hire them based on those grounds. So not only is it the leftist culture itself which is attacking its own, but now also the law which has been taken asunder by these ideas is now also in contradiction with itself. And so it just comes to the oppression Olympics and whoever you wish to favour, and you go down that route instead of trying to apply the law equally. So, rapper Wiley has been dropped by his management following anti-Semitic posts on his social media accounts. Wiley's Twitter account has been temporarily locked, while Instagram said it had deleted some of his content after a long series of posts on both platforms on Friday and Saturday. The social media giants are facing growing pressure to close his accounts, as they have done to other people, including, of course, Count Dankula being on the receiving end of a £600 fine for making fun of Nazis by using his dog, or his girlfriend's dog. And, of course, you can't make fun of Nazis in Scotland, otherwise you will be fined £600. And that's what he did. Of course, he did not consent to paying the money. He was like, no, okay, I'll go down as a martyr then, and I'll have the prison sentence for not paying it. To which the government's response was, well, we're just going to take it out of your bank account without your permission. We don't care. We're not going to let you fight this and decide to lose your freedom instead of paying it. We're just going to steal this money from your account. So that's how they dealt with him. With that in mind, Metropolitan Police officers in Tower Hamlets said in a statement, we've received a number of reports relating to alleged anti-Semitic tweets posted on social media. The Met takes all reports of anti-Semitism extremely seriously. The relevant material is being assessed. So, you would expect a similar result from Count Dankula, but when you've got the simmering pot of it being a black artist, I don't think that the law is going to be applied equally, because, let's be honest, it never is. There are also calls for his MBE, a point of his services to music, to be forfeited. Yes, that you do something that people think is good in one particular field, but then you do something they don't like somewhere else. Now your original accolade should be removed. We've seen a similar thing with the cancel culture and David Starkey, most notably of late. And it's a thing of not being able to separate the art from the artist, if you will. It's also the same thing if then tearing down statues is that idea to say, yes, you did some good things, but there are some other things you don't like, therefore we can't acknowledge the good stuff that you did. And I can only imagine then that they would say for people like Alan Turing, who was, of course, prosecuted during his life for being gay, that they must think, oh, well, the government at the time, they were thinking, well, he's gay, therefore we shouldn't acknowledge that he came up with the Enigma machine to crack the Enigma code, and the father of modern computers, if you will. We shouldn't accept any of that because he was gay, and he should have been prosecuted at the time because of the law of the land. It's a similar thing for Oscar Wilde, I'd say. So in which case you'd expect that they'd be saying, yes, that is exactly what we want, that it is a shame that we still know who he is, because if the law had worked perfectly at the time, we would have no idea who Oscar Wilde or Alan Turing are, because they should have just been cancelled and removed from history, because they have nothing worthwhile to contribute if they've done something which is bad at the time. So, I think with examples like that, it proves that, yes, society can change over time, and things that might have been thought of as good at the time that the person was alive might then turn out to be bad, and bad when the person was alive might be turned out to be deemed as good. And these time frames can shrink very quickly, and therefore just don't bother. And if it's something that is completely separate, then again, it's not worth bothering. And I'm not trying to suggest that in 50 years' time or so on, we'll look back at Wiley as a grime artist and go, hey, he was actually right, that now we've unearthed the big Jewish conspiracy. That's not what I'm getting at. My point is, if we've got the laws for protecting people's lives, then let's allow people to speak, and then other individuals can decide on which action they wish to take. For example, the management dropping him, by all means. But being investigated by the police, that seems to be a bit much. And obviously he was known as the godfather of grime, not least because he was stabbed about 20 times, I believe, and he's got the scars to prove it. That the whole concept of the grime music does, of course, come from an incredibly difficult and violent adolescence. And as he was the godfather of grime, then of course he's lived through that himself, and I've got nothing to say about the idea of the music having a bad effect on the people, but for him to think that he should be concerned about what some opinions or words on the internet might have as an effect on people, I wouldn't be surprised if he did not give that a second thought, knowing that words mean pretty much nothing, but it's the actions that mean everything. And if you've been stabbed a couple dozen times, I think your priorities are going to be very focused on the physical realm instead of the textual realm, which is where, obviously, a lot of these elites, for want of a better word, wish to live. So, as they say, in one tweet he said, I don't care about Hitler, I care about black people, and also compared the Jewish community to the Ku Klux Klan. On Instagram, videos of himself were interspersed with posts of screenshots, which have since been deleted, including one at about midday on Saturday, suggesting Twitter has suspended him from tweeting for a week. He'd been given a 12-hour ban on Friday night, but resumed tweeting on Saturday. The platform has removed some of his tweets with a note saying they violated the rules. And as I say, he's been dropped by his management, who was Mr. Wolf, also a Jewish man. So they mentioned the inflammatory comments, which we've all gone over at this point, but the follow-up that we'd expect is for there to be prosecution and criminal charges brought against him. There was nothing that they should really have in order to pin on him and charge him for, except for the way that the UK law is gone, in which case, yes, he said some things that some people took offence to, in which case it's a hate crime, and it's against Jews, which are a protected community, in which case it is now a chargeable offence. So that, I think, is where we'd expect things to go. But at that point, you've got the martyrdom down. If you're saying that you've got Jewish law and I'm concerned about black people being unfairly treated and people are protecting the Jews, and in response you imprison somebody for speaking badly about Jews, that's only going to further radicalize him and anybody who follows him as well. So best off leave it, as always, people can make their own decisions. Let him say what he wants to say, let other people say what they want to say about it, and it'll all come out in the wash. But as always, until next time, have a good one.